On the 30th day before Alara was set to perform my plastic surgery, her first love, Caspian, got divorced. I've been struggling with my face for years, so I pretended not to notice. But Alara brought Caspian home, making sure everyone found out. On their wedding anniversary, she kissed Caspian passionately in front of everyone and casually remarked that she didn't love Orion at all. He was just a stand-in. Shaking, I threw away the cake, gave up on the surgery, and ultimately signed the divorce papers. The door at home was wide open, with shoes scattered all over the entrance. I could hear a loud commotion inside, so I peeked in and was shocked to see Alara sharing a kiss with her first crush, Caspian. Sitting next to Alara was our classmate, Lyra, and everyone was egging them on. One person even asked, "Alara, when's your husband coming back? Aren't you worried he'll be mad?" Alara wiped off some smudged lipstick and casually replied, "Him? He's like a soft marshmallow. He wouldn't suspect a thing. You guys have no idea how important I am to him." Alara is totally open about her significance to me, yet she struts right in with Caspian. It was Caspian who dumped her for someone new, and I spent a lot of time supporting her. Does she really think all this makes her something to brag about? Right now, I need to figure some things out. Before even stepping inside, they kicked off a new round of their game. It was truth or dare, and Alara lost, so she went with truth. I paused at the door, feeling a bit anxious. Everyone was laughing mischievously, eager to grill her. "So, Alara, if you had to pick one of them for the night, who would it be? Caspian or Orion? Today is our wedding anniversary, so I should know I'd be back. But it feels like I've been using that as an excuse for myself." Alara turned back and gave Caspian a loving glance, snuggling into his embrace. "Is it even a question? You all did this on purpose? Who doesn't know that Caspian was my first love back in college? We've missed so many years, and now this feels like a chance from fate." Her face was flushed, and Caspian was right there beside her, stealing kisses now and then. I quietly backed away to the door and gently closed it. The crude remarks inside were unbearable. Gritting my teeth through the pain, I tossed the cake I was holding into the trash. As I stepped into the elevator, I caught a glimpse of my wrinkled face in the mirror, and despite everything, a smile crept onto my lips. Suddenly, the elevator door opened, and a mother and daughter walked in. When they saw me, they gasped and quickly stepped back out. I pulled my hat down and slowly walked out. Alara promised me that as soon as the machine arrived from abroad in 30 days, she would perform the surgery. The cosmetic surgery techniques here are top-notch, but because the equipment didn't arrive on time, I had to wait for a full 5 years. At first, I didn't think much of it, but later, seeing her so close to Caspian, I began to have doubts. Maybe the whole thing with the equipment was just an excuse. Perhaps she never planned to help me with the surgery at all. She might be worried that I'd feel insecure after becoming beautiful. Alara doesn't want me to feel like I'm in danger. I rented a place outside for the time being. Just after I paid, she called, "Orion, it's our wedding anniversary. Aren't you coming home to celebrate? I need a good explanation from you." I gave a wry smile and almost forgot that my bank card was linked to her phone. She could see all the transaction details. After a moment of silence, I slowly replied, "I just got back." Alara's words got stuck in her throat as she started to nervously explain. "They're all our college classmates. Caspian's back from abroad today, and he came over to hang out. As the class representative, I obviously had to host them." Suddenly, a sigh escaped, and the voice softened with a hint of playfulness. "Orion, I haven't thought this through enough. I'm sorry. Could you please not come home tonight? Just wait until I tidy things up first." On the other end, a deep voice responded, and I thought I must have misheard it. I nodded and placed the phone on the bedside table, ready to go to sleep. Before long, a clear yet distant voice came through the phone. "When are you planning to divorce him?" "Caspian, I really can't get a divorce. He changed into this because he saved me 2 years ago. If I divorce him, no one will accept me." "Got it. Just wait a minute. I'll definitely find a way to make him leave with nothing." The two of us were laughing and chatting, but before long, a loud noise blasted through the phone. I had already started recording, so I couldn't help but hang up. I felt a bit down when I realized Alara had thought of this approach. It really affected my mood. The next morning, she drove over to pick me up. I sat quietly in the passenger seat, not saying a word. Alara noticed how I was feeling and slowly said, "Orion, I've taken care of things at home. I'll make sure to tell you in advance from now on, so nothing like today happens again." I nodded, but I still felt restless. scrolling through my friend's posts on my phone. Caspian is a good friend of mine, and he hasn't blocked me. In a close-up photo, there's a woman with a crescent-shaped birthmark on her back. I knew, without a doubt, that it was Alara. The message in the caption seemed to assert ownership over me. I quietly turned off my phone and gazed out the window at the scenery rushing by, my mood plummeting. When I got home, everything looked just as it used to, like it had been taken care of by the cleaning lady. Alara followed closely behind me, then suddenly dashed in front, frantically picking up a stranger's sock. Her performance felt awkward as she tucked the sock behind her, then hurried off into the bedroom. I walked around the house, my mind racing with memories from the past 5 years. After a while, Alara stepped out of the room and wanted to discuss something. Orion, someone called today about the old house. They're saying it's going to be demolished. I was thinking we could sell it and use the money to get a better place. What do you think? There was a spark of hope in her eyes, and I could read her thoughts clearly. I stayed quiet for a moment and didn't say no. She suddenly leaned into my arms, and I noticed new kiss marks on her neck. After Alara left for work, Caspian swaggered out of the guest room, acting like he owned the place. He looked me up and down, then pulled out a mirror. Caspian bent down and slowly said, "I just can't figure out how you've survived with that face. Not only are you ugly, but you also give off a nasty vibe. I really feel sorry for Alara. She's working hard every day, and then she has to come home and deal with your annoying face." He just ripped into me, knowing full well I've become this way for Alara, but his words still stung. I straightened up and coldly said, "Caspian, this is my home. Please leave." Just seeing him made my skin crawl, and I was worried that if he didn't get out, I would lose my temper. He shook his head and shrugged, looking like he had no other choice. "Orion, stop pretending. You're really hurting inside, aren't you?" That day, Alara ended up in trouble because I got drunk and accidentally set the house on fire. I wanted to save her, but you, in your foolishness, rushed in and got yourself burned too. Who can you blame for that? I clenched my fist and, in the next moment, I hit his face hard. He didn't fight back, and soon his face started to swell up. The door swung open unexpectedly, and everything Alara was holding came crashing down on me. She shouted, "Orion, do you even know what you're doing?" With a strong shove, she pushed me aside, and my lower back collided hard with the sofa, leaving me unable to straighten up for a while. Alara rushed to help Caspian, her face filled with concern. "Caspian, are you okay?" she asked softly. "I'll take you to the hospital." I watched Alara's unwavering concern with a calm expression, recalling the days right after we got married. Every evening when I got home from work, there would be a warm dinner waiting for me. Even if I just sprained my ankle, she would cry her eyes out from worry. Now, it feels like even glancing my way is too much trouble for her. I took a step back to give them some space. Alara's gaze was icy, her words cutting like a knife. "Orion, I'm really disappointed in you. You should apologize to Caspian." I didn't say anything. I could see the triumphant look on Caspian's face behind Alara. Then I slowly asked, "So can you tell me why he was in the guest room?" I added, "And how do you explain the hickey on your neck?" A hint of tension crossed Alara's face, but she quickly composed herself and said, "It's just a cold. My throat hurts." "How did that turn into a hickey in your eyes?" Tears streamed down her cheeks like beads from a broken string. "Orion, you still don't believe me, do you? Caspian is just a friend, a classmate." She helplessly helped Caspian leave and casually tossed out, "Let's just take a breath for a moment. Don't worry, this won't affect your surgery at all." The irony in those words was clear, but honestly, none of that mattered to me anymore. I don't really care about appearances. I've been worried about my face, mostly because I don't want to embarrass her. Now that she has someone new, I guess it's time for me to step aside. So, after she left, I wrote up a divorce agreement and moved out of the house. After leaving, I went back to my old home that Alara mentioned would be torn down. Although the demolition wouldn't happen for a while, I tidied up a bit and moved in. Not long after, Alara called me late at night. She kept asking why I left the divorce papers. "Orion, are you out of your mind? You were the one who hit Caspian. What right do you have to talk to me about divorce? Where are you right now? We need to have a serious talk." I glanced out the window and said softly, "There's really nothing to discuss. Your choice is clear. I'm stepping away from this marriage." I quickly ended the call, not realizing that tears had already started rolling down my cheeks. Caspian was Alara's first love, and she was my first love too. Back in college, She was not only beautiful but also excelled academically. I know I'm not good enough for her. I've been working hard to better myself just to stand by her side. Many people call me Caspian's substitute, but I don't really care. All I want is to be with her. As long as I'm by her side, that's enough for me. But now that Caspian is back, I don't even have the chance to be with her. This marriage really doesn't mean much to us. I dozed off for a while, and the sound of light rain brought me back. I could hear someone knocking on the door continuously. When I got up to check, it was Alara. She looked a mess outside, her face flushed, clearly drunk. I couldn't just ignore her, especially with the rain coming down so hard. I struggled to carry her inside, and just as I turned to grab a towel to help her dry off, she grabbed my hand. She kept mumbling, and it was hard to make out what she was saying. I moved closer and sat down on the ground. Then she continued, "Orion, I don't want to divorce you. I can't divorce you." I really didn't want to talk to someone who was drunk, but people often say that drunk words carry a ring of truth. So, I decided to ask why. She slowly lifted her head, her confused gaze fixed on my eyes. My heart raced like it was about to burst. Then she threw cold water on everything. If anyone's bringing up divorce, it should be me. And honestly, who would even want you after me? Don't kid around. Even if I messed up, can't I just say I'm sorry? I really don't want to divorce you. Please, don't leave me. Okay? She took my hand and suddenly fell into my embrace. I carried her back to the bedroom while her phone kept lighting up. After hesitating for a long time, I finally picked up the phone. The first message was about the house being demolished and the compensation. I counted it several times. It was a significant amount. Then, Caspian sent a message. First, there was a caring question about Alara. Then came the reminder, "Alara, our happiness in the future depends on you. Make sure to wait for the relocation compensation to come through before getting a divorce. Otherwise, you won't get a penny." It was clear that Orion truly loved her. A little charm would surely win him over. The day the money arrives, we can leave the country and never look back, just enjoying our life together. It all sounds so wonderful. Holding Alara's phone, hands shaking, I looked at her peacefully sleeping and took a deep breath, letting the tension ease for a while. In the end, I quietly relinked all my bank cards to my phone and deleted all the demolition messages. By the time Alara woke up, I had already taken care of everything at the office. I also sent Alara a message saying I wasn't going to go through with the surgery and that we had to get a divorce. When she woke up, she was a bit disoriented. But once she saw my message, she started calling non-stop. It drove me crazy. So I blocked her number and sat alone in the office for a while. A staff member walked over and asked, "You look like you're not that young anymore. You must be married, right? This relocation will let you live a good life." There was a hint of envy in their eyes, not just because of the numbers in the account, but also because someone like me could be with Alara. I shrugged and said nothing. I spent all day in the office, sitting from morning till night, lost in memories of what we used to share. Slowly, I began to erase Alara's image from my mind bit by bit. She never loved me. Not even for a moment. I had been lying to myself for so long that I completely forgot she never cared for me at all. Suddenly, I got a call from an unknown number, and it was my wife's voice. "Orion, can you please stop causing trouble? The machine was specially shipped back from abroad for you. Are you really saying you won't have the surgery?" I just nodded. Then she continued, "Fine, if you don't want the operation, that's on you. But why do we have to get a divorce? I thought I had explained everything already. What will it take for you to decide against the divorce?" Before I could say anything, she started sharing her grievances again. At that time, everyone urged me not to marry you, but I went ahead anyway. You know I used to have a thing for Caspian, right? I never married him. Do you know why? I know the reason very well. Caspian didn't want her. He didn't have the money or status, especially compared to me, someone local with savings. It's because I believed you were a good person. I believed you would treat me well. You promised that in front of so many people at our wedding. Now you say you want a divorce, just like that. Why should it be like this? I need a good reason from you. After a long silence, I finally spoke up. "Alara, do you really love me? Think about why you chose to marry me. Also, Caspian told me that the fire before was because of him, and how I am now is also connected to him. I don't regret rescuing you, just like I completely don't regret the divorce now. I wanted to set you and Caspian free, so you could be together openly, without hiding anything from me. That was unnecessary." By the end of our conversation, my voice caught in my throat, This relationship lasted over 5 years. She stopped lying to herself and turned off her phone for a while. I knew she wouldn't let me off easy. Sure enough, when I got back home, I found her practically with Caspian. Alara didn't seem surprised to see me. Instead, she questioned me, saying, "I thought you weren't coming back. Do you have any idea how long I waited for you?" Caspian gently tugged on her shoulder, signaling her to stop talking. Immediately, Alara fell quiet and softened her tone. "Orion, I haven't slept well these days because of you. I even quit my job. Let's build a better life together from now on." She really put a lot of thought into that relocation money. But honestly, I'm not sure she can really walk away from fame and fortune. After all, the advantages of being with a cosmetic surgeon are just too tempting. Caspian chimed in next to Alara, saying, "Alara has sacrificed so much for you. Do you have any idea how hard she worked for this face? If she doesn't go through with the surgery, she'd lose money keeping that equipment at the hospital and deal with everyone's complaints and mockery. You're really not fit to be a man." They were just playing off each other, pushing me to some moral high ground, looking all pure and innocent. Caspian kept getting closer in the conversation. Just when I was trying to figure out what he was up to, he suddenly bent down and coughed up blood. Alara quickly lifted his shirt and saw all the marks on his body. She shouted at me in disappointment, "Orion, are you ready to deal with a lawsuit?" I stood there and slowly opened my phone. Everyone froze, shocked to find out that I had already installed the surveillance. All their little tricks were completely exposed on camera. Alara was the first to react, quickly grabbing my shoulders, pleading, "Orion, how could you do this to me? Let's not get divorced, okay?" I let out a cold laugh. It was ridiculous to watch Caspian act like this. I went back to the bedroom and handed over our old promise token. It was a pair of simple keychains, cheap but meaningful. It was the first gift from Alara, and I had always kept it safe. As for her half, it probably vanished long ago. She looked at the keychain in my hand with confusion and asked, "What's this?" I frowned, nodding and shaking my head in pain. "It's okay if you don't remember, but you need to understand that this symbolizes our past love. Now that we're all here, I'm giving it back to you. From this moment on, we have nothing between us anymore." The mood shifted instantly, and Alara stared at me in shock, completely taken aback. Caspian simply stood up from the ground, facing Alara. His expression was resolute, but there was a hint of reluctance and helplessness. "Alara, this is all my fault. I've caused issues in your relationship. I just went through a failed romance, and I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did. I'll step back so you can be with Orion." He turned and left, leaving us no time to react. Alara sat on the couch, looking exhausted as she rubbed her messy hair. Tears blurred her eyes. She lifted her chin to look at me and asked, "Orion, can't you give me one more chance?" I stood there with my back to her, speaking flatly, "No." After hearing my answer, she didn't say anything else. She quickly grabbed her clothes and left. She took a few steps, then turned back and said to me, "I know you're really angry right now, and I don't blame you. I'll be at the hospital waiting for you. About your surgery, I won't forget. I'll make sure to give you a satisfactory answer." Then she turned and left, not hearing my words of refusal. The day of the surgery quickly arrived, and a live stream was set up online. She opened up to the audience, sharing her thoughts and feelings, which drew a lot of sympathy from viewers. Just a few simple words from her sparked an outpouring of support. Then, the countdown began as everyone waited together for her big moment. "Orion, do you know why I chose today for the surgery? Today marks the day we've been together, and I've always kept that in mind. You've done so much for me to save me, so today, I'm going to do my best to help you. I know I've hurt you before, but who hasn't made mistakes? I really hope you can give me a chance to make things right. I've assembled the best medical team, and they're all here waiting for you. We'll be waiting for you." I was planning to reply in the comments, but then I came across a comment from an old friend. "Orion really doesn't know how to appreciate what he has. The sister-in-law has done so much for you. Just take a step back already. Alara is our friend too. If she messed up, she must have her reasons. Don't turn good intentions into mistakes. Without Alara, who else would go through such a tough operation for you?" I reply in the comments with a bitter smile. "There's no way I'm going. Just to be clear, it's not that no one can perform my surgery. I've just put my trust in you all along, giving you this chance." After posting the comment, I quickly booked a flight abroad. My family had been urging me to get the surgery over there for ages. I trusted Alara, and it led to 5 years of trouble, plus a shocking betrayal. This time, There's no way I'm looking back. After I left, I didn't expect the live stream to be so lively. On the plane, my phone was on silent the whole time. I tried to rest, but I could still hear other passengers chatting away. This live stream is quite something. She's performing surgery on her husband, yet he seems completely indifferent. It feels like there's definitely more to the story, and listening to her, I noticed so many gaps in what she's saying. Yeah. Did you see that account? They just outed her for cheating. I didn't bat an eye because I had everything planned out. I set the timing in advance once I was gone. The account went from private to public. Everyone knows Alara is just showing off, and that's got nothing to do with me. When I got abroad, my family was already waiting for me. I didn't let them see the injury on my face, so they were shocked when they first saw me. Celine hugged me tightly, saying, "Son, you've really suffered." I shook my head and gently stroked her white hair, feeling a deep bitterness inside. It's all my fault. I should have left with you back then. From now on, I'll make sure to take good care of you and be filial. Celine was crying hard, and Atlas stayed silent. His eyes red too. The three of us walked into the house, where many relatives were still gathered. Dr. Lucian noticed me, paused for a moment, then comforted me, telling me to relax. "Don't worry," he said. "Medicine has come a long way. I can't promise a complete recovery, but it will definitely be much better than it is now." I nodded in gratitude. It's true. Only family truly cares for you, no matter when. I spent 2 months abroad, and once Dr. Lucian was ready, I underwent another surgery for recovery. Just as Dr. Lucian said, you can hardly tell it looks the way it used to. I stared blankly at the mirror, feeling like a stranger. Slowly, I touched my face, and tears started to flow uncontrollably. I thought my story with Alara was over, but to my surprise, she had followed me abroad. She quietly entered my home, and when I finally got back, I was completely shocked. Alara was there, visibly pregnant with tears in her eyes, while Celine looked at me helplessly. I didn't say much and walked straight in, my face filled with anger. "What are you doing here? Where's Caspian? Are you trying to make me take the blame?" Alara looked at me, surprised to see me back to normal. Then she started to quietly sob. She handed me the divorce agreement and kept asking questions. "I'm pregnant, so you can't divorce me?" Alara was so naive. "The baby in her belly isn't mine, so why shouldn't I get divorced?" I kept grilling her, clenching my teeth while sitting across from her. "Just tell me, what do you really want? If you want compensation, I can give it to you, but if you're looking for more, wanting to split what's mine, I have to say I won't give you a single cent." She heard this and stood up in a hurry. "Orion, how can you be so heartless? You left the country without telling me, and then sent those messages. The hospital just fired me. You put my job at risk, so you should take responsibility for that." I shook my head and pointed to her belly. "Are you really trying to threaten me? Before, I didn't have solid evidence, and you could say whatever you wanted, but now, this child is the best proof. Do you really think we need to make things so complicated?" Alara was startled by my expression, and tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. She cried for a bit, and then gradually looked down. "Didn't you say I was your first love? So why can you let go so easily? Is there someone else now?" I let out a cold laugh, thinking back to our anniversary when I finally told her the truth. "You could kiss Caspian in front of your classmates without a care. But did you think I wouldn't notice? I told you before when I got home that day. I knew everything you said and did. I was well aware of it all. Don't even think about pushing my limits." Celine chimed in, saying that if that guy really loved you, he wouldn't let you waltz over to your ex-husband's place while pregnant. Alara broke down, crouching on the ground as tears streamed down her face. Since she was here, it was clear that Caspian would come too. Sure enough, they rented a place near my house, just a short distance away. Alara didn't reach out to me again, and I got back to my normal routine. Ironically, Caspian also landed a job at the same company. He looked at me with a challenging gaze and casually said, "You really care about Alara? Huh? I thought you loved her more." I paused what I was doing and met his eyes. "Looks like she loves you a bit more," I replied. "You don't need to come here to flaunt it. I'm not the same Orion I used to be." My expression returned to normal, and the atmosphere around us shifted. I didn't want to be tied down by those unpleasant memories from the past. That wouldn't be fair to me. Caspian felt that he wasn't getting anything good from me, so he left awkwardly. Later, when I was leaving work, I was the last to go. As soon as I walked downstairs, I spotted Caspian in Serafina's car. They were kissing, and anyone passing by could see them. It turned out that Caspian didn't really love Alara. He only valued those who could offer him something beneficial, even though Alara is pregnant with their child. I quietly snapped a picture and saved it on my phone before turning to head home. As soon as I opened the door, Alara showed up again. Orion, I remember you love the chicken soup I make, so I made some just for you. I looked at her calmly and then asked, what would you do if Caspian cheated on you? Celine froze, and the smile on her wife's face turned stiff. She put down the chicken soup and tried to convince herself. How could this happen? Why would you say that? He might have been divorced, but he had promised that no matter what, he would only love her and had even sworn that. I quietly thought you made promises too. But look at the situation now. She clenched her fists, still wanting to defend him. I handed her the photos on my phone. She took a glance, and her expression instantly turned cold. Like someone lost in madness, she shouted at me. No way. He said he loved me the most. How could he do something like that with someone else? It looked like she was trying to reassure herself, but her body felt the truth first. When the bright red beneath her skirt caught my eye, I started to question if it was the right choice to reveal the truth. When Caspian got to the hospital, Alara had already had the miscarriage procedure. The doctor's examination showed that the baby had died in her womb long ago, but she hadn't been able to go through with the surgery until now. It was the emotional turmoil of today that finally pushed her to take that step. In other words, I played a part in helping her. But Caspian didn't see it that way. When he saw Alara lying on the hospital bed, pale and weak, he angrily punched me in the face and gritted his teeth. Asking me what I had done to her, he accused me, saying, she lost the baby the day she went to see you. I found myself pinned to the ground. After flipping over and fighting back, I stood up and wiped the blood off my mouth. Caspian looked like he was still fired up and ready to keep going after me. Then, out of nowhere, Alara suddenly woke up. Caspian rushed over, but Alara shot him a chilling glare. Caspian, I don't want any money, and I don't want anything else. All I want right now is to divorce Orion. Can we get married? Caspian's worried expression quickly shifted to confusion and then to discomfort. He glanced back at me and quietly urged, didn't we agree to wait until we have the money to get married? You don't have anything right now. How can we do this? He added, trust me. We can use this chance to get compensation from him. Did Caspian really think I couldn't understand? I stepped closer to them and said, don't worry, I'll make sure she gets a fair compensation, but I truly can't give anything more. I was about to leave when Caspian stopped me. What do you mean by that? Alara lost the baby because of you. If you're not going to take responsibility, then who will? I just shook my head and smiled, pointing at my wife lying in the hospital bed. How about you ask Alara yourself? Who made her miscarry? I have no intention of taking the blame for this. Caspian turned to Alara, his face streaked with tears. She weakly asked, who is that woman? Can you tell me? Caspian stood frozen, too afraid to step closer or say anything. He wanted to come up with some excuse to brush it off, but Serafina came straight to him. Caspian, didn't you say you were single? What's really going on? Caspian quickly grabbed onto the bigger branch and explained that it was just a regular friend. Just a regular friend? Alara repeated herself and then sat up straight, looking directly at him. Do ordinary friends sleep together? Caspian. Serafina's expression darkened as she turned to Caspian. It's either me or her. Alara looked at Caspian with hope, but she didn't expect to hear a disappointing answer. Caspian left with Serafina. Feeling frustrated, I didn't want to stick around any longer, so I turned and walked away. Caspian was quickly climbing the ranks, mostly because he got along well with the boss. After Alara left the hospital, Caspian kicked her out. The two of them were arguing intensely, drawing a crowd around them. Look at that. They really do look like a young couple. Who would have thought? Yeah, I heard that girl is pregnant, and that guy just doesn't want to take responsibility. It's so sad how he kicked her out. A neighbor saw me and asked, do you think that woman is pitiful? I didn't say anything and thought for a moment. Is she really pitiful? It seems to me she's just brought this on herself. This path was her own choice. If only she hadn't rushed into his arms after the divorce from Caspian. If you could just keep your promise and be there for my recovery surgery, we might have been such a happy couple now. Unfortunately, there are no ifs. I shook my head and turned to go inside the room. The day after tomorrow, Alara showed up at my doorstep, a mess of tears, banging on the door as she cried, Orion, I really have to rely on you. Please help me. Don't just leave me. I stood in the room, listening to her crying filled with hurt, but I felt nothing inside. I had given her a chance before, but she chose to walk away. She spent a long time out there. The neighbors helped her out of kindness, but they couldn't take care of her forever. After that, I never saw her again. I quit my job because Caspian was always targeting me at the company. When Celine heard about it, she suggested we think about going home since we're getting older. After giving it some thought, I hugged Celine tightly, and just like that, we left without telling anyone. I didn't say anything to anyone when I got back either. I got a job at a special education school, and I really enjoy being with the students. Then someone dug up my past, and a school invited me to give a talk on fire safety. I prepared for a long time and explained the importance and dangers of fire to the students. I even put a picture of my burned face up on the big screen, and everyone was shocked. Some found it terrifying, while others called me a hero. But honestly, that didn't mean much to me. I want to emphasize that before attempting to rescue someone, it's crucial to ensure your own safety first. Fires don't discriminate, so don't leave yourself or your family with any regrets. After the lecture ended, the classroom erupted in enthusiastic applause, but I noticed someone hurrying out from the corner of the room. Once outside the school, a heated argument broke out, drawing a crowd of onlookers. I felt like that figure looked a bit familiar, so I walked over. The scarf covered the face, making it hard to see who it was, but there were a lot of people around, just like her, holding on to her tightly and calling her a fraud. They said she ruined our faces, that all those so-called experts were fake. She treated us like we were just lab rats, trying to make off with our money. I locked eyes with that woman, and just one glance was enough for me to recognize Alara's eyes. She was desperate to get away, but there was no way out. I took a slow step back, not wanting to hear anything more about her. Years later, while walking with my family in the shopping district, we would often come across a filthy beggar, always looking down. Only his eyes were visible. Every time passing by, some spare change would be dropped into her bowl. In the end, holding hands with a partner and a child, they walked even further together.